On June 7, 1992, in the quiet city of Springfield, Missouri, 3 women disappeared from a house without a trace. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry. Breakfast was left untouched on the table, and their cars were still parked outside. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. The only real clue the police had was a chilling detail: a mysterious phone call made to the house in the middle of the night. A call that lasted exactly 3 minutes. What the FBI eventually discovered about the contents of that call is the very reason this case has remained unsolved for over 3 decades, a mystery that continues to haunt America. This is the case of the Springfield Three. The story begins with a celebration. Cheryl Levitt, her daughter Susie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall were on top of the world. After leaving a graduation party, they all returned to Cheryl's home on Delmar Street to get some sleep. The last time anyone saw them alive was around 11:30 p.m. that night. Their plan was simple: wake up early the next morning, head to a water park, and officially kick off their summer vacation. But when Sunday morning arrived, it brought only an unsettling silence. The first person to sense that something was wrong was Stacy's mother, Janice Kirby. When Stacy didn't come home, Janice went to Cheryl's house to check on them. She found the front door unlocked, a small but strange detail. She walked inside and the scene grew even more bizarre. The television was still on, humming quietly in the living room. All 3 women's cars were parked exactly where they should have been in the driveway. Inside, Janice found their purses, their keys, and all their personal belongings left behind. Cheryl's dog was found, unharmed but clearly distressed, locked inside a bathroom. The beds were unmade, but the women were gone. The Springfield Police Department was called in, and they began what would become one of the most frustrating investigations in the city's history. The first perplexing clue they encountered was the answering machine. Someone had listened to the messages, but then deliberately erased them. Janice Kirby and Susie's boyfriend at the time, Mike Hamer, later told police they had listened to a message earlier that morning. They described it as obscene and disturbing, so much so that they decided to delete it to protect Cheryl from hearing it. Was this a random crank call, or something far more sinister? The police were left with a digital ghost, a message that could have held vital clues, now gone forever. But the mystery of the phone didn't end there. Later that same Sunday afternoon, while Janice and Mike were still inside the house, reeling from the women's disappearance, the phone rang again. It was around 3:30 p.m. Mike answered it. On the other end of the line was a man's voice. What followed was a disturbing, obscene, and threatening conversation that lasted for 3 minutes. Mike was shaken. He immediately reported the call to the police. Investigators traced the call to a nearby payphone, but they couldn't identify the caller. The exact words spoken during that 3-minute call were never released to the public, but both the Springfield Police and the FBI have stated they believe that call, and possibly others made in the days leading up to the disappearance, holds the key to the entire mystery. The question that has echoed for decades is, what was said during those 3 minutes? As news of the disappearance spread, the case exploded into a media circus. The public was captivated and horrified. With the media attention came a flood of tips, leads, and unfortunately, a lot of false information that sent investigators down countless dead ends. One of the most prominent leads came from a convicted criminal named Robert Craig Cox. While in prison for another crime, Cox claimed that he knew what happened to the Springfield Three. He told investigators that the women were buried in a specific location in the area. The police took his claims seriously and conducted extensive searches, but they found absolutely no evidence to support his story. He was thoroughly investigated, but the trail went cold. Another theory focused on a man who had done some construction work on Cheryl's house shortly before she vanished. There were reports that he had made inappropriate comments towards the young women. He seemed like a plausible suspect, and police looked into him extensively. But once again, after a thorough investigation, he was cleared of any involvement. The lack of physical evidence was baffling. The crime scene was almost surgically clean. This suggested 2 terrifying possibilities. Either the women knew their abductor and left with him willingly, or they were forced to leave in a way that left no signs of resistance. The perpetrator was either incredibly lucky or incredibly skilled. Years went by and the case grew colder. Then a new name surfaced, Gerald Carnahan, a man who was being investigated for a separate fraud scheme. During questioning, Carnahan made a shocking confession. He claimed he had kidnapped and killed the 3 women. For a moment, it seemed like the case might finally be solved. However, as investigators dug deeper into his story, they found major inconsistencies. His confession was ultimately deemed unreliable, just another false hope in a long line of them. The families were left devastated once again. And through it all, the mystery of that 3-minute phone call remained. It wasn't just a clue. Investigators came to believe it was a taunt, a deliberate act by the person responsible to insert themselves into the investigation, to watch the chaos unfold from a safe distance. This wasn't a panicked criminal. This was someone cold, calculating, and in control. We know that 3 women went to sleep one night and never woke up in their own beds again. They vanished, leaving behind everything and everyone they loved. What we don't know is who made that 3-minute call, or what was really said. Police believe the words spoken in that call could have provided a crucial psychological profile of the kidnapper, a window into the mind of the person who committed this terrible act. Today, the Springfield Three case remains open. The house on Delmar Street, the epicenter of this mystery, was eventually demolished in an attempt to help the community move on. But you can't demolish a memory. The empty lot where it once stood is a constant reminder of the 3 lives that were cut short, and of the deafening silence that has followed. The mystery lives on, a chilling testament to the fact that sometimes evil can strike without warning and leave nothing but questions behind. So what's your theory? Who do you think made that 3-minute phone call, and what do you think they said? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you found this case as compelling as I do, please like this video and subscribe for more unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.